Alright, hello everyone, this is Lye Yosh. Welcome back to Life, Study, Library. It's pretty late at night, so I'm going to try to pack it up pretty quickly. So, how many of you read books on a daily basis? As you can imagine, reading books is a really major part of my life. I mean, I'm not here to brag or anything, but if I were to be stranded on an island and were told that I could bring one pair of clothes and one book, there's a very high chance that I would return the pair of clothes in exchange for a second book. I mean, realistically, there should be trees with good-sized leaves on that island that I can use as clothes. But anyways, the point is that I love reading and want to make a living by reading books, ideally. And of course, I read a lot of books electronically, whether through devices like Kindle or otherwise, and oftentimes I read while standing up or while walking around in the room. And that's because doing a light exercise like walking while reading helps you activate your body and your brain, which allows you to retain information better than if you were to just read while sitting. And this is a very popular way to retain info from the book you're reading by outputting the information that you attained. So basically you first take the information from the book while you read, right? And then you present that information. You tell what you learned to others by talking about it, just like what I'm doing right now, by outputting it. This whole process greatly helps you learn and retain the info you read about in the book. And this is exactly what I do in this podcast. I read books and take in information, and then take out the information I read while talking to you guys in this channel. But that's not the main point I want to discuss in this video, because today's topic is about which reading platform, physical copy or an electronic copy, which of these help you comprehend what you read about? And according to a study published in the science journal Scientific Reports, it is said that reading on an electronic platform, so on like a smartphone or a Kindle or an iPad, actually inhibits your ability to comprehend the material. Yes, a very, very frightening study indeed, because I read most of my books electronically. It has been previously stated that reading physical text on a physical book is better than doing so electronically. But today's study adds onto this claim by investigating the reason behind it. Why does your reading comprehension plummet when you read electronically? In this channel, I'm going to be talking about these interesting scientific and psychological information by implementing data from scientific studies. So if you're interested in watching this video and want to watch more of my past and my future videos, make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video so you can support me greatly. And your support is very much appreciated. Alright, let's continue on with the video. So today's study is done at the Showa University School of Medicine in Japan, which collected 34 samples in order to analyze the reason behind the reduction in reading comprehension when electronic devices were used. How they conducted the study was that they first focused on the two hypothesized factors regarding reading comprehension / performance, which are visual environment and breathing pattern. These factors are pretty odd because the visual environment is, understandable because of the possible differences in outcomes among paper and electronic readings. There might be, like a major difference in how much you can comprehend depending on the material on the media that you're reading in. But why your breathing pattern? The researchers commented likewise. The study made it evident that sighing was a major influencing factor in improving your cognitive ability. This means that while sighing this is perceived by society to be an indicator of boredom or disinterest, a negatively perceived behavior, it also has a possibility to improve work efficiency. Particularly, it improves your cognitive ability. And there's more to this study. So the sample of 34 participants with the average age of 20 years old, these samples were tasked to read 2 different novels as paper and electronic texts. During this activity, the samples wore a device to examine their brain activity, specifically the frontal lobe activity. They also wore an aero monitor to examine their breathing pattern. After reading the text, they answered a mini quiz regarding what the reading was about, so like a reading comprehension quiz. So the study consisted of 4 different conditions involving text A as a digital read, text B as a physical book, and text B as a digital read. And by the way, the researchers made the fonts on both the physical and the digital text the same. The results showed that the reading comprehension score was yet again higher when you read the text physically rather than digitally. So this justifies the experience that y'all might have had when you were reading a book on Kindle or something, and some older fellow points out that, oh, it's better to read the actual book than to read a digital version of it. While annoying, their claim is scientifically accurate. Additionally, there was another thing that the study has found where the samples sighed more when reading from a paper text compared to digital text. In addition, while previous research has proven that there's a high intense activation of the frontal lobe when reading from either media, this activity was much higher when the samples read from an electronic text. And this intense overactivation of the frontal lobe due to digital reading was connected with the number of sighing and the reading comprehension test result. So this all means that you'll be able to retain information much better from a physical book than from a digital copy. But Yosh, you might ask, physical books takes up space in my room and I live on the moon, so I can't go to the bookstore or the library to get books. Situations like these inhibit you from getting a physical copy, so what can you do? One method that the study provided is this: intentionally taking a deep breath while you read. So what does this have to do with anything? Humans are known to take deep breaths when dealing with a cognitively difficult task, and as the difficulty increases, so does the frequency of them taking deep breaths. Observing this, the researchers have claimed that an adequate amount of tasks that forces you to use your brain, so essentially, a good amount of mental weightlifting, leads to the increase of sighing, and this results in the recovery of your brain functions. On the other hand, reading texts and books digitally leads you to carrying mental loads that are too demanding for your brain, which results in the overactivation of your brain, and this leads to the decrease in the understanding of the material. One reason as to why we sigh less when we read stuff digitally is thought to be because of the screen lights of the smartphone or the tablets. By consistently looking at a screen, our brain is forced to stay awake without a rest, which in a sense disables you from remaining in a focused state because, your brain is needlessly awake but is not focused on any particular thing. It's a similar mechanism as to why we can't fall asleep after looking at our phones. In simple terms, it disturbs our brain just enough so that we are not able to focus but also are not able to relax. So what now? What should we do? Especially to those who have to look at their phone screen for a long time. The researchers answered this by stating that it might help to intentionally take deep breaths. By taking intentional deep breaths, it works like an air diffuser and allows the brain to let out stress and helps it avoid being in a state of hyperactiveness, thus enabling the cognitive ability to remain functional without the brain overdose. So what you should do to avoid brain burnout is to either remember to take deep breaths while reading or to simply read a paper book. Now, here's some caveats about today's study. The samples here were all within the age range of 20 to 25 years old, which is the age range that was always closely associated with the internet, or stuff like digital reading media and other electronics. The researchers are not really sure if the same thing will happen to the pre-net generation, or those who don't often use internet. It's even speculated that the cognitive weight and the distress that comes from it might be even greater to those who didn't grow up with the luxury of the internet. So you might be able to say, as the world progresses into an internet familiar era, which currently I say that there's no other alternative path, as everyone shifts into an internet-based platform, the number of people who are unfamiliar with the internet will decrease, and many more will be introduced to online reading. Therefore, the positive effects of taking deep breaths when you're having trouble comprehending the stuff that you're reading, this effect will be beneficial to you by the day. So I suggest that to be able to better understand the books or any other kind of texts that you're reading, you should take deep breaths here and there, or to simply throw your Kindle out the window and go back to reading paper books. And that was pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed it. As usual, I'm collecting illustrations for my thumbnails. I'm going to be using everything that is sent, so yours will be soon. So yours will be used, maybe not immediately in the next video, but depending on the amount sent, it will be used soon enough. And today's book recommendation is Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less by David Mckeown. This book is pretty self-explanatory by the title, as it teaches you the importance of keeping only the essentials in your life and throwing everything else that is not. So rather than going to a get-together that you know will not be important in your life, that you're only going in order to please your boss or something, this book teaches you when, where, how, and why you should say no to this and spend your time on essential activities that is deemed important, like watching my videos and subscribing to my channel. JK. And lastly, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to Life Study Library so that you can watch my other past videos and keep up with all my future content. This has been your host, Lye Yosh, and I'll see you in another video.